We're talking Michigan Wolverines today on Sharpen the Point. 2024, it was, coming off that national championship, 8-5, is probably somewhat of a disappointment, but given the quarterback play, it was a heck of a run to get to 8, especially beating Alabama in the bowl game, beating Ohio State again. Sharon Moore enters his second season. He brings in Chip Lindsey in his first season as offensive coordinator. He was the UNC offensive coordinator previously. Wink Martindale returns for his second run as a defensive coordinator after he had a great time maintaining that defense. Quarterback-wise, there's no other way to put it than this was likely the worst room in the country last year. Michigan was jealous of what a number of G5 teams had in their quarterback rooms by comparison, and what led them to not getting a guy from the portal prior to last season is beyond me, but they went out and addressed it this year. Mikey Keene, you didn't expect me to start there, did you? He comes in from Fresno State. He has a good amount of starting experience between stops at Fresno and UCF, and he put up decent numbers each of the past 2 years with nearly 3,000 yards passing in each of them. Keene is not mobile. He does not possess great arm strength, but he can be an accurate passer, although he makes some mistakes and takes more sacks than I'd like. He did miss the spring with an injury, which could hamper his integration into this offense. However, I expect him to start at the beginning of the year, and if things go right, to remain the quote-unquote starter for the entire season with packages for the other guy we're going to talk about here in a second. If things do go south, though, he is going to be benched quickly. That short leash on Keene is because of the $12 million man, 5-star, generational talent, closest comparison to Cam Newton since the man himself, Bryce Underwood, is now in the building. He possesses a large frame for his age at 6'4", 210, while being a strong runner with the ability to make guys miss in space to add hidden yardage. Combining his rushing capability with a strong arm capable of making every throw, good touch with that strong arm, particularly on deep balls, and advanced pocket presence gives you an all-around prospect. We're talking 5-tool baseball guy just on a football field. Based upon his showing in the spring, he could definitely use some more time to get acclimated, as he really struggled with accuracy and decision-making, which is to be expected given what he's facing in practice every day. Sitting behind Keene for at least the early part of the season would do him some good, as he could get his feet wet in limited action, but ultimately their hand could be forced if Keene is either not healthy or just struggles mightily early to throw Underwood right into the fire. Running back wise, the tandem of Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards was a drop-off from the group the year before, accounting for just over 1,600 yards rushing and 16 touchdowns. It was to be expected, as the pass game did not keep most teams honest whatsoever, and the quorum numbers were never going to be duplicated by Mullings. Edwards had unrealistic expectations placed upon him, as it seemed most people failed to acknowledge him running like what I termed prior to last season as a blind mole rat, where he bounces off of whatever's in front of him until he finally finds a hole. Both now leave the program, but they could arguably be in a better position this upcoming year. Now we're going to have Jordan Marshall, who operated as the number 3 last year with limited work, and Justice Haynes, who comes over from Alabama, forming the pairing as the top 2 starters. They're going to be co-starters. They're going to share the load. Marshall did not see extensive action until the bowl game against Alabama, where he popped off for 100 yards rushing, showing a glimpse of what is to come out of him. Haynes, meanwhile, operated on limited touches, showing decent efficiency in the SEC while really having a nose for the end zone, scoring 7 times on the year. I'd expect them to be an even split to start the season, with more likely a 60-40, 65-35 mix likely to happen as we progress. I think Marshall probably is the one who pulls away and gets the upper hand there a little bit. CJ Hester was brought in from UMass. He's likely to operate as the number 3. I think he sees some work as well. His claim to fame currently is rushing for 74 yards and a touchdown against Georgia on an awful UMass team, but outside of that, he wasn't extremely productive. pass catching wise. Outside of Colston Loveland, this group was absolutely appalling last season with no wide receiver accounting for 250 yards on the year. Some of that can be attributed to the quarterback play, but honestly, the group overall was just awful as well. Long gone are the days of Braylon Edwards, Mario Manningham, and Steve Breston lining up on the outside. The additions of Donovan McCulley out of Indiana and Anthony Simpson out of UMass provide a clear upgrade to the room. McCulley started out his career as a quarterback there at Indiana, but he was more of an athlete than a quarterback, which led to him transitioning. He had a decent season in 2023 with nearly 650 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns. He provides a large catch radius at 6'5", though, and he could be a good number one. Simpson is a smaller slot wide receiver at 5'11", 180. He also played well in 2023, struggling in 2024 with nearly 800 yards receiving. I think McCulley starts right out of the gate as the top outside wide receiver with Simpson working into the rotation in the slot, with returners Samaj Morgan and Fred Moore rounding out the starting trio with McCulley. It's still not really an inspiring group yet, though. Channing Goodwin climbed the depth chart with a quality spring performance, and he had 9 targets from Underwood, showing good rapport. If he can develop, then it will be a boost to the vertical passing game. At tight end, the loss of Loveland is really going to hurt. Marlon Klein does return, so does Hogan Hansen, and he has a ton of upside. We know we will see plenty of 2 tight end sets, so I'd expect to see both on the field a lot. Klein is more of a blocking weapon, whereas Hansen is the primary receiving threat to pick up the slack from Loveland, although you can't expect him to match that production. Hansen did get his feet wet last year as a freshman, and I expect him to be a big factor as a receiver, and he does have true breakout potential given his profile. I had hoped with Underwood coming into this team that some talent would want to catch passes from him and come over immediately, but it really seems they're taking a wait-and-see approach, the talent that is, not the actual staff. It looks like the room still lacks that top-end talent, and we'll need to shop the portal again next offseason to find true difference makers on the outside. Offensive line-wise, last year's group was inconsistent at best, and injuries plagued them for much of the year, hindering the run game, which needed to operate at a high level to mask those passing deficiencies. There's still plenty of questions to be answered coming out of the spring, but we can confidently say that left guard Gio El-Hadi, center Greg Crippen, and right tackle Andrew Sprague have won those respective jobs. At left tackle, Evan Link had the upper hand in the spring, but 5-star freshman Andrew Babola, he's breathing down his neck. He wants to get on the field. Babola is so well thought of by this team that he was the top pick in the spring game draft, and if he continues to impress, then it would not be a shock if he starts from day one. Right guard-wise, Nathan Afobe, he's really in the pole position heading into fall camp. I do think Brady Norton from Cal Poly, he has a shot to unseat somebody along this line, though. Norton was a left tackle previously. He needs to add some weight to crack the starting 5 and build into his frame a little bit better, but he did get a good bit of buzz in the spring. Defensive line-wise, per usual, this is a deep unit. They look to replace some top-end talent, nothing new to this room. The duo of Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, they wreaked havoc on opposing teams before being top picks in the NFL draft. Combining them with the loss of Josiah Stewart, you would think there would be a significant drop-off, but I don't think there will be that much as you would project. Off the edge, Derek Moore and TJ Guy will form a great duo with Cameron Brandt and Dominic Nichols in tow. That group combined for 13.5 sacks last season and should have no issue getting to the quarterback again with a 4-man rush. Nichols has improved in the offseason. He's going to be relied upon more in this rotation as his speed rush is notably very good. Up the middle, trying to replace those 2 studs, Rayshawn Benny, Trey Williams, and Damon Payne are going to play starter snaps with Eno Etta mixing in. Benny is going to project as an extremely high pick, similar to Grant and Graham. Payne is a very good run stuffer, and then Williams has the most upside of the bunch. Etta, he's got a ton of potential too. He just needs time to develop. He needs to be able to work into the rotation and develop a little bit. And the hope is he can do that this season before he really takes that next leap the following season in 2026. Linebacker-wise, linebacker core is deep, talented, and experienced. Nothing short of very good and one of the top units in the country. Last season's top 2 tacklers, Ernest Hausman and Jay Sean Barham, they return after they could have easily bolted for the NFL. Hausman, he's going to look to build on his breakout season last year. Behind them, Jimmy Rolder, he's going to open as the primary backup. He's going to see the field plenty as well. But I really think Cole Sullivan is the one to watch in this room. He had a really strong spring. He's drawn rave reviews from the coaching staff, so it wouldn't be a shock if he jumped Rolder in the rotation, and he's a candidate to be a breakout player this season. Each of the 4 could start for most teams in the conference, given how good they are. So it shows how good the depth is here. Defensive back wise, you lose Makari Page, Quentin Johnson, Amir Hall, Wesley Walker, and Will Johnson, and that saps the room of a good bit of production and talent. Will Johnson's going to be severely missed. I know he was out for a better part of the season last year when he was injured, but every time he was on the field, he was locking guys down and a playmaker and able to take a ball to the house at any given moment. At corner, Zeke Berry and Jair Hill, they're the locked-in starters. They have a ton of potential with the experience they gained last year while Johnson was out injured for most of it. Hill had an emergent year last year, and he looks to be the top guy. The depth behind them performed well in the spring, but it's a very fluid situation right now who will step up if either is to miss any time. TJ Metcalf was brought in from Arkansas. He looks like the answer at the nickel spot as he's a ball hawk last year, notching 3 interceptions in the SEC. He had a real standout performance in the spring as well. Mason Curtis is going to be pushing him, though, and is likely to get plenty of reps. After missing last season with an ACL injury, Rod Moore is going to return to his starting spot at safety. That's going to be a big addition, being able to get him back. Moore plays a good deep safety role, and his vision and angles are extremely good and useful for making plays on the ball. Brandon Hillman, he's going to join him back there. He is an enforcer on the backside. He's a classic old school safety, lays the wood, makes massive hits. He would be on Jacked Up back in the day for ESPN. 2025 schedule and outlook. On offense, the quarterback play, even with Keene and the run game, I expect to be better. But the pass catchers still leave plenty to be desired, leaving questions as to how explosive they can be and how many points they can put up. On the defensive side, I think they're still going to be stout with the front 7. And the biggest questions are really in the secondary, but they have some very talented pieces back there. I don't think we see much of a drop-off at all from this defense, and they're going to be real nasty every given week. New Mexico, win at Oklahoma. This is tricky. Oklahoma, if the offense can click with their new pieces of Arbuckle coming in as the offensive coordinator and bringing in John Mateer with him, then it could really be a long game where the Sooners can exploit the secondary a little bit and being diverse and then stop the run. I think it's a coin flip. I would lean loss just because I don't know that this offense is dynamic enough to put up enough points against Oklahoma, whereas Oklahoma will have a dynamic enough offense to backdoor their way into a 20 to 28 point score, and I don't think Michigan put up those points early in the season. Central Michigan win at Nebraska. I really need to see Nebraska win a Bussin' Bowl game first before I can at least be competitive before I'm going to pick them to beat Michigan. It's a tough place to play in Lincoln. It's a very good crowd. I'll still say a win there, although I think Raiola is going to be improved, and I think that team overall is going to be improved, and they have some lofty aspirations. Wisconsin win at USC. I think that's another tough road trip. I'm going to lean loss due to offensive firepower for USC, and they have a ton of defensive improvement. But I think it's a close game. I think it can go either way. I think it's a coin flip. But I do like Maeva a good bit, and I don't know that we'll have seen Keene by this point. Keene will still be in. I don't know that we'll have seen Underwood take on the full role, even with loss to Oklahoma, as long as Nebraska is a win. Washington, I'm going to lean win. I believe in Washington. I think Washington's going to be a tough out week in and week out for any team. I think Damon Williams is tough to play against. I will lean win. But man, that's an interesting one. But it's a home game, and that's the difference maker for me. At Michigan State, win. Purdue, win. At Northwestern, win. At Maryland, win. It's a very nice run-in, a very soft run-in going to that Ohio State game. You're not going to like to hear this. I'm leaning loss. I think Ohio State finally gets the monkey off their back. I know they're not going to be as good as they were last year. That's what it seems like to me. But man, Ryan Day cannot seem to beat Michigan. I think they can finally get the monkey off their back, but boy, could it be. I mean, what happens if Ohio State continues to lose that game? It's going to be interesting. There's really some tough road games early, but a soft schedule late where they can get rolling before facing the Ohio State. 7 wins is the absolute floor, which would be fine in a rebuilding year like this, but the likelier outcome is something in that 9 to 10 range to me. Moore still has this thing headed in the right direction, though. Keep your belief in him. He's going to be good, and he's going to keep you going up, and y'all will be contending very soon.